So if you guys remember, a little while back, I did some comic crossover rankings with some of the comics I own, and with a single group of crossovers. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to do that again with Transformers. Now, a couple things. Full disclosure, I don't own every single Transformers crossover. Some of them are kind of hard to collect, and others I've been looking everywhere. It's hard to find. Even online, it's difficult to get them. So I don't have every single one. And as always with these ranking videos, this is just my personal opinion. If you think a comic story should be higher or lower on the list, that's totally fine. And again, if I manage to find more of the Transformer comics that I'm missing, I will gladly put them in the list with these videos. That's kind of the neat thing. Even though I don't own all of them now, in the future I can do this again and re-rank the videos. It's kind of like adding a new movie to a franchise. It's kind of like that. Anyway, so yeah, I'm always excited to hear where you guys stand on these crossovers. So yeah. Let's get started with the bottom of this list. And that is New Avengers Transformers. Oh, yeah, Avengers Transformers. I had such high hopes for this. I was so excited for this crossover. I was so, ready for this comic. And I was, I couldn't wait to read this. It was this came out right when the Marvel movies were just phase 1 of Marvel was going on, and the first Michael Bay Transformers was coming out. It was a big time. It was a big deal. And then I read the comic. Even back then, when I didn't have comic context, and now I have even more context, this is probably one of the worst crossovers I've read in a long time. For starters, it basically is set right before the events of Civil War, where the New Avengers are, this is basically goddamn chair. Basically what it is that it takes place before the events of Secret War, or after the events of Secret War, I should say. And Doctor Doom is in the comic, and in continuity-wise, Doctor Doom is missing. Basically, this is supposed to be his second in command, Victoria something, I can't remember. So yeah, that's a continuity error. Also, this is supposed to be in line with the IDW Transformer comics, and it's very clear when they introduce Ramjet, he's supposed to be Starscream. Even though at the time, Starscream was kind of MIA at the moment. So yeah, also the dialogue in here is really bad. It's god-awful, and the comic itself doesn't feel like this big adventure. It just feels like just a big it just doesn't have that kind of epic scale you would have of having the Avengers and Transformers together. That's why I was so sad when the the Justice League Transformers crossover was canceled, because it looked so much what I wanted for this comic, of having this big grandiose adventure bringing these crossovers together. I think this also kept them from doing crossovers for a while, until they finally realized, hey, we can just do these crossovers outside of the Transformer continuity we're doing. And I think that was kind of because they tried so hard to set it in the early IDW continuity, when they could have easily just been, this is out of canon. They even try to make it in canon, and it fails miserably. There's also a point where, I think one of the Autobots, I swear to God, one of the Autobots calls Prime Prowl. And that had to have been an error, and I don't know how that got I don't know for the life of me how that got past the editors. Yeah, right here. He's looking at Prime and he says Prowl. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if you can read, but I mean, Prowl is right there, but it doesn't even look like he's looking at him. It's clearly meant to be looking at Prime, but yeah, this comic is no bueno. This is a comic that I do not care for in the least. And I've dropped video games. That's wonderful. Good job. You see what this comic has done to me? You see what this has done? We're so professional on this channel. So professional. So, next up, let's talk about the next one on this list. And honestly, this one could be just as low. Transformers versus G.I. Joe 3, Art of War. This comic is... now, full disclosure, I don't have the second of these. And this is also part of the Devil's Due era. I know it got reprinted for G.I. Joe Transformer comics, but yeah, I can't find the second volume. So yeah, I don't have volume 2 of the Devil's Due era of G.I. Joe versus Transformers, but I do have this one, and it's pretty bad. Making Serpentor like a son of Megatron, and it involves... Really, it's a lot of nothing. Like, it's very much a nothing comic. It does have, like, some neat fights, but at the same time, Serpentor really doesn't feel like a threat. And it's also convoluted. Honestly, either G.I. Joe, this comic, or the New Avengers Transformer comic can go either way. Is one of the worst ones I've read in a while. So, before we go any further, actually let's talk about one I do have, but I just don't have it in trade. And that is the Ghostbusters Transformers comic. Now, admittedly, it's kind of funny because at the end of the comic they said, Ectotron will return. He never came back, and he's never gonna... Image. I doubt Image is gonna care enough about Ectotron now that, you know, the comic rights for Ghostbusters over at Dark Horse. So yeah, he's never coming back. This comic was basically to promote the Ecto 1 being a Transformer for the one of the anniversaries. They did that with another comic, which we will talk about, but it's kind of basic. I do like the idea of Starscream's ghost being the main villain, and that's kind of fun. But it does lose me of having that. It feels more like a mobile to make you want to buy the Ghostbusters version of Optimus Prime as well as Ectotron, and that's really it. It really feels like they're marketing that, and yeah, it's just an comic. It really does. I mean, I know that's the whole point, is that it was meant for promotion, but really, and it's also meant to be in continuity with Eric Burnham's, Ghostbusters comics at the time. And admittedly, the dialogue is a lot of fun, and I think that's why I rank it a little higher, and I think it would be something I want to go back to. But yeah, this is a comic I'm just like, on, really. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on now to G.I. Joe versus Transformers, the first one. Like I just said, I don't have the second one. But yeah, this is kind of fun, even though here's the thing, though. With all the G.I. Joe Transformer comics, and hopefully Energonverse will fix this, I'm kind of why do they have to overcomplicate such a simple thing? Like, from the other G.I. Joe versus Transformer comics that IDW did as like a weird alternate universe thing, this is also an alternate universe thing of having the Joes being in against Cobra, who have found the Autobots and Cybertronians and made them into war machines. And it feels like it's overcomplicated. Why can't we just have Megatron and Cobra Commander just team up, have them united, and have the Autobots and the Autobots and G.I. Joe. God, I'm very tired. I'm sorry. Why can't we just have that? Like, it feels like this comic does do that, but it takes extra steps to get there, if that makes any sense. But yeah. There's also a pretty solid kill, by the way. There's a pretty solid kill of, I think Skywarp kills Major Blood by having Major Blood is inside Skywarp, and then Skywarp just crushes him as he transforms. I thought that was pretty fun. Next up, we have Transformers MLP: The Magic of Cybertron. This is the second one of the crossovers, and they kind of built up for a third one, but that third one ain't coming. Yeah, this comic is 4 issues of characters meeting each other, and it kind of is it has a loose story. We're going to talk about the first one in a minute, but this one, I think it's cool to have Sombra as the villain and have him merge with Scorponok, but really, it feels like the first and second issue are, you know, at least the first stories, because it's 2 stories per the 4 issues, and it really does feel like it's the first story and the last story of the fourth issue. God, sorry guys. That have any story to them dealing with that, but really it just feels like, hey, we're gonna have all these random characters meet up. There's no major like interconnection, and it just feels like, hey, we're just gonna have characters run into each other with a loose plot of Sombra taking over Autobots and Decepticons and ponies, and also to have the meme of Rainbow Dash meet and team up with Starscream because Death Battle. But it's a fun book. I will say it's adorable. It is pretty adorable, and I do like having some team-ups in here that you wanted to see, like Soundwave with Vinyl. You have like Rarity hanging out with Knockout. There's a few good ones. There is some legit fun moments, and I think that's why I like it a little more, because it doesn't have to be this grandiose dark story. Although they do kind of built up for a third one involving the Quintessons that we ain't getting. Anyway. So, let's move on now to the next one. Speaking of, MLP Transformers Friendship in Disguise. This comic actually has God, I'm sorry guys, I'm tripping over my words. Whereas the second one felt a loosely connected story. Here it feels a little more tight-knit, of having the Cybertronians scattered across Equestria, you fucking idiot. And the characters here and interactions here feel like more fluid, and it's a lot of fun of seeing like these encounters, like having like Rarity forced to make like Starscream's classic hood, cloak and crown for him. We also get like Windblade and Rainbow Dash racing. There is some fun moments here, and I do like the idea of Chrysalis and Megatron working together. I thought that was a solid team up. Yeah. Also, I love, and I forgot to talk about it with the second book, but I love the team up between Grimlock and Spike, and this is also pretty fun too. So, yeah. Next up, these ones I really like. Those ones from Ghostbusters to the 2 MLP Transformer ones are ones I like. I think are cool. These last ones I have are the ones I really love. And starting off with Transformers Back to the Future. Transformers Back to the Future very much has a lot in common, is that it was meant to be... It has a lot in common with the Ghostbusters Transformers crossover, where it was meant to be a mobile for, showcasing Ectotron and making you want to buy the toy and whatnot. And it's the same thing here with Gigawatt, excuse me. So Gigawatt takes over the form of the DeLorean, and him and Marty and Doc Brown go on an adventure to stop the Decepticons from taking over the timeline. It's actually a more solid story. Like, whereas the Transformer Ghostbuster one, it feels more like... the dialogue does carry it from being a mediocre book to something like, yeah, that's pretty fun. Here, this comic has like a really cool story. I love the time travel shenanigans, and also that Rumble is the one who caused all this. Is a lot of Rumble of all the Decepticons. It's Rumble who does this. With Biff Tannen, those two are the ones who fuck up time. The comic actually has some dark moments too, and I feel like it takes some inspiration from Days of Future Past. There's also another Autobot that shows up named that took the form of Marty's hoverboard, and I really like that character too. There's also a Decepticon that took the form of the clock tower, which I was like, all right, that's overkill, but I think that was part of the toy line. It also gives some shine to Rodimus as well. I thought that was pretty cool. The artwork is pretty solid too. I think it's some of the best artwork in these Transformer comics as well. Yeah. This might be a little harder to find, but I think, yeah, all of them are hard. These IDW Transformer comics are hard to find, so good luck in the wild. Anyway, next up, is Transformers versus Terminator. This is one we thought we'd never get. This is a crossover I don't think any of us thought we'd ever get in our lifetimes, and I thought it was a solid crossover. I think this is the best art of any of the crossovers, honestly. Although I will say there's a reason why I like my favorite of these crossovers. But this one, the one thing, and I actually got to, one of the artists for this comic actually sent me a comment when I did a review of Transformers versus Terminator, basically saying like, hey, we couldn't get the facial rights for Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously, so we had to go around that, which is cool. I understand. And the fights between, you'd think the one Terminator we have is weak against the Transformers, but no, that's not the case. Also, I love the idea that it's Skynet who won. Basically, again, this deals with time travel, where it's now a war between the Decepticons and Skynet in the future, and it's Skynet trying to save itself, and fucking Sarah Connor is just caught in the middle because John doesn't exist in this time. There's no Kyle Reese. Goddamn motherfucking chair. Anyway. But yeah, I love this one. This is a solid crossover, and I wish we'd get more Terminator crossovers, because there aren't a lot of good ones. I think the best of those, because there aren't many, is Frank Miller's RoboCop vs. Terminator, with the worst being the other RoboCop Terminator crossover, Kill Human. That's arguably one of the biggest piles of trash I've ever read in my life. But anyway, and now for my number one, and you might not agree with it, but this is my favorite: Star Trek versus Transformers. Star Trek versus Transformers is the epitome of fun, because you could have, like the other comics, this is what sets it apart from the other ones outside of the MLP Transformer ones, where you could have easily done like a deep character story and have it be a cool crossover with the crew of the Enterprise encountering the Transformers. But this comic decides, nah, we're gonna do the animated series and have them encounter a version of the 80s cartoon. And in a way, that works even better, because you can do all the ridiculousness of the of Star Trek and Transformers and get away with it, because you're doing the Star Trek animated series. Yeah, it is the epitome of fun. It knows what it is. It doesn't pretend to be anything else, and is just... It's just all around a great comic of having these two franchises that have this deep storytelling, and be like, nah, we're gonna have fun with it. And I have a smile every time I read this comic. So there you go. So there you go, guys. That is those are my rankings for the Transformer comics. Like I said, I don't own every single one, but I think that's what makes it grand, is that if I get more of these crossovers, I can come back and review more of them, like remakes of the list. But you guys tell me in the comments below, where do the Transformer crossovers that you've read rank for you? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.